Good evening, everybody. It's the Poker Night at the Inventory podcast, and I am your usual and regular host, Just Kidding, joined today by two auspicious gentlemen who I've never met before, SPNanon and Nord. Say hi, guys.
Spnanon, you sound a bit different today.
I mean,
Wait a minute, you're not Spnanon.
yeah, I'm not SPNanon.
What have you done with him?
Yeah, he was just kidding.
There you are.
He was just kidding about being the host. He's actually the guest. What we're not kidding about is that this is episode 91 of the Strip Poker Night at the Inventory podcast. We're continuing our arc of fapping in the 90s. He was kidding before, but I am dead serious about being Spnanon and being a Super Saiyan. I've achieved a new form, and I'm here with my still regular Saiyan co-host, Nord.
I mean, I'd be fine being as strong as Krillin. He would deck Superman in the face. Hello, everyone. I'm Nord.
Are we going to get into that discussion?
Did you know that 91 is also the sum of the first 13 prime numbers while being a prime number itself?
No, it's not a prime number.
It's not?
No.
I've been lied to.
Did ChatGPT tell you that?
I will neither confirm nor deny that I sourced my material from ChatGPT.
Just kidding. Would you like to introduce yourself again without kidding this time?
Hi, I'm just kidding. Shoot. Anyway, I am on this podcast again because I did a bunch of things. Again.
Oh, he did more than a bunch of things. He was on pretty recently. We have him on all the time, but this time especially because the entire agenda is his stuff and his stuff alone. He has two main roster characters. Obviously, we talked about them on testing, and he has two test roster characters because that's the way he rolls. Two leave, two come in to replace them. It's not exactly a hydra, but it is a self-sustaining economy. Is there anything else you'd like to mention about yourself before we get into it? Just kidding.
I have double-jointed thumbs.
That is a pretty fun fact. I'm glad we discussed that ahead of time. Real quick, because we want to cover these characters pretty extensively. There's the host shilling corner, what me and Nord have been working on. Nord, not on the agenda for once, unless you count a bit of a code thing that I guess you contributed to. That we'll talk about in a second here. As for me, I've been hard at work on the graphics and specifically alt skins side of things. The big one there I will mention in a future episode since it's not really relevant yet. But it's been a hot minute since we last recorded, and in that time, something that is visible on main game is Jura Chief Barnett, which I think may be the only alt skin of its kind. So it is an alt skin, and if you open it up, you may notice that Jura looks exactly the same. And that is because the only thing that has changed, actually, is her girlfriend, Barnett Orangello. So normally she's in a very skin-tight, revealing leotard, like a pussy peek out the sides, all that good stuff, a lot of cleavage. Not very modest. Her butt's just hanging out completely. Here, I wouldn't exactly call it modest, but she's switched that out for a more loose-fitting shirt, or like a crop top, and a jacket, a different colored holster, and some tight, I guess, yoga pants, with presumably no underwear. Underwear doesn't really seem like her style.
Is underwear even a thing in Vandred? It's the future. They don't wear bras in space.
I don't think we ever see anybody. Even the men, there's a scene where they strip them down naked to hose them off, but they're like already naked when we get there. It's like, I don't think. Okay, maybe the main character Hibiki ends up in his underwear once. I don't know. It's tough to say. Point is, it's not a focal point. I can imagine a lot of them just go commando. They are, after all, a commando. But yeah, it's totally unchanged. Even the dialogue is pretty much unchanged because this is basically just an alternate outfit that Barnett dons about 2/3 of the way through the series. No spoilers, but it's basically a character development moment for her. She takes over the their Regis system, which is kind of like the weapons deployment and storage, all the munitions. And she also removes that cute little flower hair clip she has. So I thought it was something that at least deserved to be represented. There are probably people who prefer it as an outfit, and it was simple enough since the only images affected were the ones that had Barnett. And all the work of removing her hair clip I actually did for Santa Jura. Anyway, because that also came from like a late in the series, her apron that she was wearing there. So I took care of that. Go player, if you're interested in collectibles, she has a new collectible just for that, just for playing with that. And in general, you should be playing with Maya and Jura on every table all the time, without exceptions. So you might as well get some variety out of it. Did either of you take a look at this? Or at least read my subreddit post?
I did, actually. I gave it a try when it came out. It was quite good. I'll immediately go on to a technical ramble here, where I would say if I was handling this, well, it would be a lot of work if this was only the end goal. But if you made all of Jura's poses custom poses, then this alt costume could just source its images directly from Jura's main folder, and then
that's the unfortunate thing that ended up happening.
Yeah, the unfortunate side effect of this sort of costume is Jura's art is just duplicated. Maybe in future we'll have a more an easier way to do this sort of thing, where you're only swapping out a couple of images.
It's not something that should probably become popular, but I mean, there's only so many companion characters anyway, and this is a particularly good example because it's like an outfit that she has for quite a while, and it represents a lot for her. Honestly, she kind of mellowed out a little bit at this point in the series. She's not quite so irritable, but I pretty much just kept everything the same because it's just a fun little bonus. And yeah, it's basically just the default skin, but if you want Barnett to be wearing something different, go ahead. Just kidding. Any thoughts?
I haven't had a chance to play with her, unfortunately, so not much I can say.
Well, do you like the look of her?
I mean, I really like Barnett, and variety is the spice of life, so yeah. I had no idea her last name was Orangello. Everything makes sense now.
Oh yeah, I remember you. I don't know if you've seen the show, but I know you played the Flash game, the Vandred Love Quest, where she's you can date her specifically. You
can. The main thing I remember for that game is breaking into Maya's room and beating her up to make her love me. So
it's true. She would get a little turned on in her pantaloons if you did that.
Indeed.
That's pretty much it. I mean, even if you haven't played her yet, looking at this selection of images, it's pretty much the full experience. Again, dialogue and everything's pretty much completely unchanged. Their relationship hasn't really changed. It's just fun. Oh yeah, she does. Jura rolls off her pants first because I didn't feel like moving all that stuff for her boobs. But yeah, that's the long and short of it. And also, I've been working on other stuff, but we'll get to it next time or a time in the future. Nord, what have you been working on?
Well, as we're recording this, it's the countdown to the summer event at the start of July, so I have set myself up with a lot of summer costumes to work on. The two that I'll mention are that I've just finished Rose's summer costume. She's still in testing at the time of recording. And I'm going to be remaking Aqua Konosuba's summer costume to use her new face and hair. So look forward to those. And yes, I was also going to give Zeke and Pandoria a summer costume. Unlike with Barnett and Jura, I think anytime I give them costumes, both of them are going to be getting costumes because they usually are either drawn in similar costumes in fan art or from the game they have special costumes. So yeah, looking forward to the summer event. I ran a cheeky poll on Twitter, and 3-1 people prefer the summer event to the winter event. Not really a surprise there.
Summer is a lot sexier. Of course, that's the normie opinion. You'd think. I mean, we are a community full of contrarians. who like muscle mommies and pubic hair. So, do you have any pictures of Summer, Zeke, and Pandoria to share, or anything else?
Not yet. I would just be sharing fan art or in-game screenshots, but hopefully I get it done in time.
Is there right now a skin of like a guy in swim trunks?
Ignatz.
Or even a girl in swim trunks?
I believe the only one might be Yuno. I gave him a summer costume a while ago. Men in general don't have very many summer costumes.
Yeah, they don't dress them up for gacha games. Well, if that's all you had to shill, I guess we can move on to something else that's quite out of the zeitgeist at this point. The roster resort number 17 has concluded. I believe we alluded to it being ongoing last episode, and now the results have been posted and are over 2 months old. There's not too much to comment on. You all have a lot more characters of your own to keep track of that you can maybe gain some more insight from. I'll just say that I'm very grateful. All my characters did quite well. They performed a little bit better on average. They're all quite near the top, and even then they gained some placements. Up there, it can be kind of volatile, who exactly ends up where. You need a lot of votes in general. You need a lot of support across the board from common players and the more exclusive polls that devs vote in. And it's not always predictable, but it is. It can kind of vary based on just who happens to see the poll that week or that month. I know we ran it a little bit longer this time, around 10 days, to try to mitigate that. But I'm always extremely grateful for the support that they get, and they did very well, which I was happy to see. They kind of underperformed straight out of coming back on main with their new art last time, but here now that I've been trying to do a lot to add like fancy new poses to up their sex appeal and refine their voices and add new content throughout these last 6 months between that poll and this one, and I think it's really paid off, and I think people have. They've had time to sort of reestablish themselves on the main roster and get people to notice them again, and I think it really paid off, and I appreciate that. We should mention that I think this was more turnout in general. I know devs were a little less apathetic about it this time, and apparently poll A, which is the main game poll where all the casuals vote, that got a big turnout as well. I'm not sure if it's the most ever, but I think it's more than last time. You mentioned that. Any insights that either of you can share?
I'm wondering if one of these days Jura is going to overthrow Maya and kick Maya out of the top 10.
That's happened before in earlier years. Around like 2018, 2019. I'd say they traded places a fair bit based on who was voting, but there was a pretty solid stretch from like 2020 to like almost 2022 where I was updating Maya a lot more, and Jura and Revi were especially kind of stagnant. I've really upped my activity on Jura specifically, but I've upped my activity on both of them. So Maya kind of pulled away in that time period, and it's kind of remained that way. I mean, you got to factor in the line count advantage as well. She has a lot more lines, so that helps her score. Even though they get pretty comparable like vote spreads, so that basically means Maya's always going to come out on top because of the higher multiplier. And there's not. I mean, they would have to be very different vote wise.
Well, the event itself usually leads to a fair bit of discourse. It was relatively chill this year. I personally try never to really think about it too much, but I do say that as someone who like has enough characters where like they take up like no matter where my characters get voted, I win because like for example, I have my mans who has written both Mari Setugaya and Aqua Konosuba using my art, so my art is attached to a top 10 character either way. I always like using this as a sort of way of judging where my effort can go. because like some characters of mine are going to be inherently less popular than others. Like Aqua Kingdom Hearts is always going to be less popular than Aqua from Konosuba. But this was quite interesting that my most successful male so far is Zeke and Pandoria. And of course, that leads to the joke of, how do you get a popular male? Just add a woman.
Staple girl to it.
So yeah, I always hope people never get too bummed out. I think if your character's in the middle of the polls and you haven't updated them in a while, that's usually a good sign that they're like still good. The ones just at the very bottom are sort of like missing out on targets to more modern characters, or don't have epilogues or collectibles that people hunt for, and so people just tend to forget about them. Like Mary, Buffy, Franziska at the bottom there. I think Buffy is now in dead last. But I will say that like if Buffy is our lower floor of quality, then things aren't so bad.
No. Just kidding. What did you think? I can preface this by saying that Just Kidding now and forever always gets fucking robbed, fucking anally destroyed on all these resorts. I don't know why. He shits out nothing but gold, and the player base is just not interested, apparently. Each and every one of them is rated lower than they should be. How do you feel about this this slight, this offense?
When I initially read it, it still bums me out a bit, but I get over it pretty quick. I don't let it.
I mean, how do you feel just seeing this incontrovertible proof that democracy doesn't work?
I mean, look around and see that every day, because we live in a society and all that. But
Hashtag election year.
But like I said, I don't let it get me down. I'm not in it for the clout. I'm in it for just to do what I want to do. Because I don't want other people or myself to just make whoever they think other people want to see. I want them to make who they want to see personally. Because I feel like that's where you do your best work. And perhaps rising tides rise all ships. Wow, that's definitely not what the phrase is. But I just gotta keep working at it, and make a character that's so popular, and then just target extensively with my own character, just that character, so all my other characters get recommended when people choose that character inevitably, and that'll lead to more exposure and more plays for my own characters. I just haven't figured out which super popular character that is gonna be. When I figure it out, it's gonna go gangbusters.
What do you think is it's like, do you have any ideas for like who you're gonna use as like your breakout star? Because all these
possibly
are like kind of.
I'm waiting on a few key statistics to come out here, because some of the ideas I've had are for characters who are from franchises that aren't yet represented, but are known quantities, especially in the circles that would be interested in a game like this. So I'm waiting to see if and when other characters from these franchises show up, and see how they do, because then maybe that tells me what I should do. But until then, I'm just going to keep doing whatever I want.
Yeah, you make a lot of retro scrimblos.
Yeah,
from games that are like kind of well known, but it's like the kind of thing where like, yeah, I know that game, but I'm not like a huge fan, or I haven't like specifically played it. I think the two new characters that you made also qualify under that.
I mean, yeah, technically.
The new ones. Well, we'll talk about those in a little bit. Go ahead.
But yeah, I'm a retro human at this point. I'm getting on in years. I'm not an old man, but I am certifiably an adult human. So yeah, all my choices are informed by the vast life experience that I've had up to this point. But there's always there's always a chance I'm going to pick something that's a little more recent, a little more 2020s. So just to keep your ear to the ground on that one.
Interesting.
Not to lilt my hand too much, but
more established characters are they were pretty entrenched this time around. The highest performing character was Nonon Jakuzure from Kill la Kill, and she was still hovering around like the 20s. Yeah, number 24 overall. A lot of the newcomers did quite well. Next highest was Yae Miko at 32. Classic Genshin. People really like Nadeshiko from Yuru Camp, and then Zeke and Pandoria. So people really like them. Obviously, he's got the male multiplier, but I think people have responded to that dual character style. It's doing something a little bit different. I just noticed Nami's on top from a combination of good votes and good lines, but she did not have the highest vote score. No, a number of characters did better. Monica actually has the highest, I think, like just based on votes, and then it's Nagatoro, and then Mari, and then Komi-san. Funky. I guess that's all the insights we need to share right now, unless you two have anything else.
I always just look at it as a fascinating peek into what the general audience likes. Although I do think that next time we run this,
tell what they like.
Yeah, I mean you can always guess, but yeah. I think next time we're going to roll some of the polls together, because we've gotten complaints, as we always do, that filling in the same poll 4 times is quite tiring, and so people either forget or they just don't bother to do it more than once. We'll probably combine the Reddit and Discord polls together, because they're both publicly available anyway, so there's no real point of having 2 of them. And then we'll keep the in-game poll and the developers only poll. So we have 3 polls, and we adjust the weighting of each vote to match how we're cutting one out.
I'll use this airtime to point out that this has been my idea to do this for the past 2 years, and the mods have unilaterally just ignored me. And suddenly they decided it was their idea, and now they're going to do it.
Why are you saying this? I came up with it just now because I'm so clever.
Well, if you're so clever, clever man, why don't you tell us about a little bit of a code thing that you've birthed, a little code baby, degendered clothing, specifically striped knee socks.
Okay, so one of our devs, or one of the not dev mods, but just general developers for the game, Little David, made a little change to the code that degenders clothing. And what that means is, it used to be the case where there was 2 sets of clothes, one for a male player, one for a female player. Now you can just select from either on the title screen, where you create yourself. The one for the opposite gender appears below the one for your current gender. It's just a little change because it is current year 2024, and people can dress however they like. As a small note, we had a duplicate entry of plain socks, and so what I decided to do is change one of those into striped knee socks, so you can now wear the programmer socks if you so choose. And also, super vitally important, is that the default male player outfit no longer puts gloves on. It puts a hat on instead.
What about the duster?
Oh, it stays.
Nord, have you ever worn women's clothing? The silence is deafening.
I could be funny here, but no, I don't think I have.
Just kidding. Have you ever worn women's clothing?
I have.
Are you going to elaborate?
Oh, I was in a show, and it was for a part in that show that I had to wear women's clothing for part of it.
Was it the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
It was not Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was a long time ago.
Well, this update was made just for you.
Thanks. I really appreciate it.
I have not worn women's clothing. Should I? Should I go woke?
Could always give it a try.
I've been
Never
told
know, you
women's
might-
underwear is more comfortable than men's underwear.
Are you sure? I feel like it'd be tight around the goods.
I'm not sure. I'm just telling you what they've told me.
You gotta let the boys breathe.
You wouldn't put your best friend in a rickety wooden coffin to go to sleep. You'd put him in a lace hammock because he's your friend and you want him to be comfortable.
I guess part of this update.
I guess go ahead.
Part of this update just comes off the back of the fact that it was pointed out, like, as you can now wear certain collectibles, you've already been able to do this, but you've had to unlock them first, and so it kind of felt a bit, I guess, silly or redundant that, like, you can outright put on an entire maid outfit if you play against Wikipedia, but you can't, wear a different pair of pants because you're playing as like a dude.
I actually made a Maya's bodysuit unisex. I'm not quite sure how it would look on a guy if it's designed to have a little more give in the chest and the butt. Fun fact about me, I do have a big ass. So
does Maya complain if you take it off and you're wearing underwear underneath it?
No. If you take it off and you're a guy, I think she's kind of into it. You're rocking the Vegeta look.
Huh.
That I mean, if you've read a comic, that skin tight works for all genders. As long as the body looks good underneath. I think it's time to move on, unless either of you have anything else you want to add.
No, I think that's all. It was a minor change.
Yeah, I'm good.
So, as discussed, I mean, there were other things to discuss, but the 4 characters we have slated today are 2 main roster and 2 test roster, all just kidding. The first 2 are Sofia from Rune Factory 3, the girl who collects trash and speaks in total opposites. She always says the opposite of what she means, telling you to kill yourself with a smile on her face. And the other one is Yae, the retro ninja from Ganbare Goemon. I mean, we've covered these before. Normally I say, Nord and I have given our thoughts before, but I think, just kidding, I think you were on last time when we had them on the test roster. Is that correct?
It was the case last time that it was the same situation that it is right now, where I had just put 2 in and then 2 on. So you had me on because the agenda was again full of my characters. So yeah, probably was these 2.
It's just going to keep happening. So we've kind of all given our thoughts, and I guess really what you just want to emphasize here is, I got a retro ninja skin. Specifically, I wasn't even thinking about that. Just kidding. You can start off by quickly going over what's changed since then, or like what have you added for putting them on the main roster, sponsorships and stuff. Where do you want to take them? And then Nord and I will finish it off with our brief updated thoughts.
Indeed. So, going in alphabetical order, Sofia. Main change to Sofia is there's just a lot more Sofia now. If you like Sofia, she's even more Sofia than she was before. She says more things. She talks to more people. She comments on more things, incorrectly comments upon them. So, there's not a whole lot I have planned in the future for Sofia. Just, general upkeep, making sure she keeps talking to folks that she's talking to and maybe talks to new folks as it becomes relevant. The biggest change that has been made with Sofia is that she got a few new poses, namely ones where she can be viewed from behind. And her later stage stripping poses are now animated and have 2 stages to them. so they're a little more, they're a little fancier than they were before.
Yeah, I specifically asked for that kind of thing to sex them up.
And I think it does work very well. And it made me think that maybe I should animate all of my stripping poses from now until the heat death of the universe, which would mean I have to go back and retroactively give everyone I have already made stripping poses, animated stripping poses, which would be a lot of work. And I would have to be a madman to try and take that on. But more on that later.
Any future plans for her?
Nothing specific. If another Rune Factory character shows up somehow, someday, somewhere,
Wasn't If I May working on one?
neither confirm nor deny these allegations about this other person. But I will say what you said is absolutely true.
Okay. Nord?
I really like what you've done with her. In my test game earlier, I've seen the banter she has with Nephenee. I think it's very funny and very cute. You've done her gimmick really well. I probably touched upon this when she first entered testing, or maybe not, but like having her lies in a different color and like I think it makes it easy to really get what she's all about as soon as you started a game with her, and you get the comedy of characters that like never clue into it and are just like, why are you like this? Why are you insulting me so much? And then you get other characters that do eventually clue in and start like being like, Sophia says, "You are absolutely horrid. I'd never want to see you again." And the other characters go, "Aw, thank you, Sophia." I think it's great. Good job adding those extra little animations. I think it's a good touch for her later stages in particular. Have you, on this note, have you considered giving any of your characters animated finishes? Those are becoming a thing now. Or, well, they've always been a thing, but they're becoming a popular thing, I should say.
I wish they weren't.
I've done exactly one, and then I elected never to do one again.
I'm not pushing for one or anything. I was just curious if you were interested. Who did you do it for?
Y'shtola.
Ah, yes, her.
It doesn't trigger every time, though.
Isn't it tied to the limit break?
It is.
So I went out of my way to sponsor both Sofia and Yae. It's not something I normally do unless I feel like characters are getting slighted, that they've gone too long and not enough support has been drummed up. I tried to keep it relatively straightforward. You know, I don't want to saddle you with work. I think they were plenty good already. I just tried to get a couple like image changes that I thought they'd benefit from, or just flex my own power over you through the sponsorship process to get what I want, such as seeing Yae's butthole. So yeah, I asked for stripping poses. Later on when we talked about Yae, I asked for her heavy and climax poses to be sitting down, and a couple other basic things. I appreciate the butt poses that you added. Overall, yeah, though I think, I'm not sure if I said this last time, but in the sponsorship I mentioned that she has like really big bug eyes, like kind of alien looking, and that can very easily look very weird and uncanny, but she uses them very well. She emotes with them very well, and it's impressive that you were able to pull that off. I mean, I'm sure you had reference art, but still, it's a delicate balance with that kind of design. And I like her very bright pink puffy nipples that look like they taste like cotton candy.
Oh yeah, that was your sponsorship where that was said. Right.
Moving on to Yae.
Moving on to Yae, indeed. So this I went kind of mad when I was working on her final bits, and I added a whole bunch of new transformations for her, and I added a butt pose, and I added a face and profile butt pose. Oh, I did that for Sophia too. But so yeah, she just got a whole bunch of new stuff, including a whole new all costume. So if there was any question of which character got the brunt of my work for the final push, it was her. But yeah, people seem to like her a lot more than I was anticipating. So I wasn't really sure how she would pan out in the end, but she really took on a life of her own. And in the future, I anticipate she's going to be getting into a lot more trouble.
What could that mean?
I mean, sights have been set on her by at least 2 other characters for possible dual shenanigans.
It's Leon, isn't it?
Leon's one of them.
Of course it's Leon.
This man will not rest until he has NTR'd the entire player base.
I don't know what to tell you. It's just a fact that NMASP really likes Yae, so here we are.
Well, she's a small Asian girl, so yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I'm just saying it does be the thing that do be the case.
You also added this retro ninja alt skin. Is that like from an earlier game? Her design. I like the full body mesh.
This is like a way big callback when Konami was making like Goemon manga, where I would often end up the butt of some very fan servicey moments, as you do back then with your female characters in manga. So yeah, it's a pretty different look, and I and other people seem to really like it. So I wanted to include it one way or another.
Nord, what's your take on Yae?
I like her a lot. She's a very enjoyable character. I love how she's a bit seductive, but not in like an overly like intense way. It's more that she's just like very clearly here for a fun time. Her doing her like ninja transformations sells that a lot. Although I think there's only a couple of cases where she does it. I haven't seen one in a while.
Yeah, I need to sprinkle more of those in and use them more judiciously. That is something I have earmarked for.
Yeah. I noticed you did a good job with Sofia and Yae's butt poses. I can't help but notice that if you put them side by side, they're facing towards each other. Unless you...
Oh my god, they're gonna kiss.
Unless you put them side by side the other way, but what I mean is, yes, make them kiss. You know you want to.
You don't know what I want.
Your motives are beyond my understanding, but I can still take a guess.
I mean, I feel like my motives are pretty well within the realm of understanding. Like, very much, you're just a stone's throw away from my actual intentions.
I mentioned already that I just wanted her to have a couple sitting masturbation poses because that's what I like. I'm gonna be real, the butthole wasn't in those default sitting poses, I might not be here today. That's what sold me. Actually, that's probably not true because most characters, when I found the game, stood while they masturbated. So it was probably the the dirty talk. But yeah, I really like her. All I'll mention this time is that I thought it was funny how, she's like this like wacky fantasy ninja from like a joke like Edo period where they have like Hollywood movies and like giant mecha and bazookas and shit. And she's just like, she came off as like totally normal and well adjusted and just here to have a good time. Which I guess is kind of anachronistic in its own way, but it's just funny.
That's her role in the group. Is she's the one who's normal and well adjusted. That's her role in everything. So
she's the straight man in the shonen girl group. She's the girl.
She's the girl, so she's the straight man.
Okay. Well, unless there's anything else you two want to add about these fine new additions to the main roster, who were, of course, tragically undersupported in the resort, we can get on to the main events, which is the 2 main roster characters that you replaced them, or test roster characters that you replaced them with. Nephenee, did I say that right? Or is it Nephenee?
Nobody knows. So yeah, probably.
No, there's no like pronunciation.
There's no known recording of anyone saying that word out loud in canon, so we're just left to
I
guess.
mean, there's no like accent on it, so I went with Nephenee.
That is usually what people say, I believe. I've heard people say Nephenee, but I hate that, so I've never said it myself.
Nephenee with a martini.
Yellow polka dot bikini.
Yeah, so Nephenee from Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, which you may not be familiar with because it's before Fire Emblem games sold any units. It was pre-Awakening. It was on the Wii, right? It's the one that Ike's from, and that's why he's in Brawl. Right, it was the first game that Ike was in?
Both games Ike was in, Nephenee's in.
Right,
Technically.
but that was the first one, right?
Correct.
Right, and then I remember reading about that in
Path of
Nintendo
Radiance was
Power.
on the GameCube, not the Wii.
Oh, it came out for the GameCube?
Yeah, Path of Radiance was on the GameCube, and then Radiant Dawn, which is the other Ike game, was on the Wii.
All right, shows what I know. And then if that's just not enough 2000s era gaming for you, also known as the last time gaming was good, we have Fairy Leviathan, the Reploid guardian of Copy X in Neo Arcadia, if those words mean anything to you, from Mega Man Zero, one of the more obscure Mega Man sub-series, the only one that I think got a proper conclusion. But yeah, there's Classic X, Zero, and ZX. And Zero and ZX are much less in the public consciousness. But they were good games all the same. We'll talk about both of those. It's a character I actually happen to know quite well, as opposed to, this typical Fire Emblem stuff. Right, so Nephenee, I'll let you introduce her completely, but basically she's kind of the simple country girl who's drafted into a war that she didn't ask for, because I believe her homeland was invaded. I believe that's how you recruit most characters in Fire Emblem, is that their village or homeland was invaded. And you're like, yo, work for us. Stab people. Stab people with a lance. And she's cute and honest, and she's trying to like talk a bit more properly, hide her simple rural affectations. And she keeps her helmet on for quite a while. And yeah, she's decked out on all this funny armor. But I'll let you, JustKidding, go into more detail. That's just her general appeal. Simple country girl.
Yeah. So Nephenee, you recruit her out of a jail cell after she's been captured by the Daein army.
Oh damn, just like Jotaro.
And she is just kind of this dumb hick who joined the war because she didn't want to, give up her land to invaders, but ends up, working nearly side by side with the queen of the whole country. And this whole conflict's a lot bigger than her, but she's like, she goes at it with I'm just a simple girl, and I just gotta do what I gotta do. But she's a little embarrassed.
Okay,
that,
you can call her dumb. I didn't call her dumb. That seems a bit uncalled for.
Oh, she's kind of dumb. She didn't go to school. She spends all her time on the farm.
My profile pic is Goku, so I guess I can't say anything.
Saying, but it's not a crime to be dumb. It's okay if you're dumb. The world is propped up by dumb people.
Hashtag election year.
Just doing their part. Yeah, speaking of democracy not working, but yeah, we love Nephenee because she's earnest and she's really doing her best, and she has very big like I'm not supposed to be here energy, where this conflict has really gotten a lot bigger than she anticipated, and she's in over her head, but she's wearing a helmet, so she'll be fine. She always has her helmet. She has a Fire Emblem Heroes alternative costume where she's wearing a fancy dress, but still wearing the helmet. So it's very important to her character, and that's why she keeps the helmet on for such an extended period of time. But yeah, by the end of the game series, she's a little more confident about her station in life, but I imagine, around Stranger, she's still pretty nervous, and, in Fire Emblem Heroes, she still talks like she's, ashamed to have affectations, and and they talking like a heck. So yeah, a lot of her unwillingness to let that go fades away as she gets more and more, relaxed and more revealed as time goes on.
I thought why does she have a bow? I thought she used a lance.
She tells a story in Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn about when she first joined the militia, where they were severely undersupplied, and they gave her a bow and arrow and told her to share it with someone during the battles.
Okay, yeah, it is Nephenee. It's written in the corner, that art of her with the lance.
Ah.
Nephenee. Mystery solved. Anyway, just from that description, I think you captured her little mini arc and personality pretty well. Because even in a sexual context, yeah, she is kind of given that presentation of like unsure if she's even supposed to be there at first, and then slowly getting into it and getting more comfortable, and she starts to let her accent slip out. And she's being herself, and that's cute, and I appreciate that. And yeah, she saves the helmet for last. It is also pretty funny. And of course, a unique visual, which is always good for SPNatI characters to deliver on. But before I give my full thoughts, Nord, what did you think of Nephenee?
I love her so much. I'd never heard of this character before you put her in the game, and now I'm infatuated.
No? Have you played pre-Awakening Fire Emblem games?
No, I'm an Awakening baby. I got the game randomly, and it hooked me into the Fire Emblem fandom. But like most people that started with Awakening, the older games are too hard. What do you mean I don't get infinite do-overs? No, I play it on Honest Iron Man, where like I'll play it on casual, where your units don't permadie, but I still try to complete every mission without losing anyone. But it's literally just to save from doing the same mission for the next 2 hours again. But anyway,
that's true. If you don't like Nephenee, you could buy her game and then just have her fucking die.
You could literally leave her in prison to rot if you wanted to.
You don't have to recruit her?
You could just not open her jail cell and just leave.
So, on a bit of a tangent here, but I love that SPNatI lets you, like, as a community-made project, lets you just choose random, like, optional characters from older, like, media like this, and you can make them really work, and they can represent an archetype that is otherwise, like, very uncommon. And so Nephenee really gets that across with like the shyness, but despite being shy, she's still putting on a brave face. She does try to hide her accent, but then she comes to accept, like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to keep it hidden, so I'll just open myself up to others. And having her keep her helmet on until last definitely feels fitting for her. And it's a really good and striking visual for her being, like, completely disrobed aside from the helmet. It says a lot about her character. Her art is fantastic, and you did really well, especially with the armor. The few times I have had to make armor, I'm always just like, okay, can I just draw this? Just from the looks of things, I can't tell if you've drawn it or actually made it within Kisake or not.
Parts of it are drawn, but parts of it are made in engine.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love her a lot. You did a great job with her. I can't think of anything critical to say. I'm sorry, I like strong women.
I mean, she doesn't have a particularly strong personality. She's kind of demure. I don't know, maybe she becomes an animal on the battlefield. Drinks the blood of her enemies. Just kidding, can you confirm?
She does yell some pretty aggressive things for her crit quotes.
Does she ever, like, keep stabbing them after they're dead?
I mean, that can happen.
I mean, she's certainly slaughtered livestock before. This is only one step above.
Yeah, that whole if you can stick a pig, you can stick a person mentality is way off base. But, sure, maybe.
I was just joking, but do you have experience with this? Did you grow up on a farm? I noticed that you seem to have a thing for farmer girls. This is the second one.
Man, I just had a thing for girls.
That's it, of all shapes and sizes and occupations?
I don't discriminate.
Well, you did call her dumb, but
Yeah, but not in a discriminatory manner.
dumb, complimentary.
As in a matter-of-fact manner, as in a descriptive manner, in a factual manner. I'm trying to... Well, yeah, that's one of the things I have written down for her as a note, is like, make her dumber. It's like, make sure when she's having conversations with people, if they use a big word or something, to have her not know what that is. So if anyone wants to target Nephenee, use a big word, and for a fun misunderstanding.
As far as I saw that a little bit with her playing with Leviathan. But as far as the farmer girl appeal goes, yeah, she seems to like genuinely love doing it. She got all excited describing mud to Leviathan. So I imagine, and also with the forfeit lines too. She's like, oh, rut with me and all that, or rut on me. So yeah, I mean that's definitely something you can lead into a little bit more. I had to post this helmet strip that she had, just so adorable. Still hiding behind it.
It's so cute. Oh my god.
Have you noticed? Perhaps you should play into this. Her helmet looks like a penis.
How could you say that?
I would say penises look like they have helmets.
But penises came first.
Well, maybe if you're a selfish lover, it'll come first, but...
Yeah. So more on the dialogue. She's very honest and pleasant. From what little I've done so far, she is very fun to target because of she's kind of passive in that way, but has a very unique perspective on things. I'm sure there's a lot of sci-fi and space terms that she wouldn't understand, and I hope to get into that a little bit more. She kind of leans into like the time displacement, which some characters don't, but it does help create memorable like misunderstandings and targeted interactions. I think everything else oh yeah. Sometimes on her hand lines, she says like, oh, that don't look good, or it doesn't matter, but it's not always clear what she's referring to, if she's talking about her hands or not. So maybe look into that. She uses a lot of like ellipses as well, which isn't a bad thing. It shows, she's kind of nervous, but maybe try to use dashes as well, kind of mix up your punctuation for different effects. She could be like kind of stuttering. Everything else I mentioned, everything else I wrote down has to do with art. I want to say, first of all, not just her art, but your art in general, I think is kind of, its praises are undersung. I think in particular, your facial posing is so unique and expressive, like the horny poses that they all have. You use such good mouths that I don't see it anywhere else. A lot of like clenched teeth and like sort of furrowed or like biting lips, or just a bit open in a way that really sells it with the blush and like the narrowed bedroom eyes. All your characters do it, and they do it very well, and they do it in different ways. It might take a bit long to find the poses, but for instance, Nephenee, when she comes, she's got like sweat. She's got like little air puffs around her head, showing that even more. She ends up chewing on her hair, which is really funny. Just like flyaway hair near her mouth, which is just so many neat little touches that honestly I could probably try to do a little bit more myself.
Yeah, my advice to anyone who's making models out there and posing them is never forget that a mouth is more than just a hole in a person's face. A mouth is got lips, it's got teeth, it's got a tongue. All these are components that are all rattling around up there and contribute to a larger picture. So think about the intimacy of looking at someone's face and noticing the minutia of the movement of their face, because that inspires a lot of feelings of what's I'm looking for.
Another appeal of her is that she's kind of tall as well, and not like typically like really slender and buxom. You know, she's got a bit of like a hard-working, sturdy built body. Like she's not a plain, but you know she's a bit like wider and taller all over. Maybe you could give her some muscle ribbons. I don't know.
Thought about it.
It's a bit late in the game.
She does have to be, you know, sturdy enough not to be knocked over by a bucket of water. So, but yeah.
Anyway, last thing I want to mention, you know, speaking of mouths, it's true that a lot of your posing is very good, but I do think sometimes it didn't quite work for her. Like I think she could open her mouth a little bit more than she does right now. I know it's something that you can't always do because you want to show her being quiet, but there are lines where she talks a lot. And those are the kind of lines where you want an open mouth, or at least an open mouth variation. You could do like in the pose maker. Maybe try to move her eyes a little bit more, or move her eyes around a little bit more. Sometimes like her line of sight also didn't always match what she was talking about. You know, she could be talking about herself, but she's looking out, for instance, or the opposite. She'd be addressing someone else, but looking down. And it doesn't always match, and I don't think it was because of like shyness or anything. But on the whole, though, just really, really solid character. Very cute. A very cute penis helmet.
I want her to pick me up and throw me in the hay.
I'm a bit more old-fashioned. I would like to pick her up and throw her in the hay.
You will break your back doing that.
You don't know me.
Look, you don't want your body to enter a area where there's a lot of hay, because it's basically just like jumping into a spike pit. It's pointy and it's itchy and it's incredibly dry. You don't want to be near hay bales.
Speaking of dry and helmets, not penises, but also lances, we have Fairy Leviathan from Mega Man Zero. She is in the game, there's sort of like this humanity's fucked. If you played Mega Man, you realize this is, robots are not a good idea. We should not have made robots. Everyone died multiple times, including dropping a giant fuck-off space colony onto the Earth, wiping out the entire environment. Everyone's forced underground, and unleashing a virus that makes all your super robot helpers go nuts and murder people. So the only solution is to build even more robots to murder the murder robots. And Fairy Leviathan is one of those. She's a protector of humanity. We're all holed up on like the last city, the last Zion, the only place where you can even live on Earth. And Mega Man Zero on the Game Boy is just like fucking dismal and depressing, and just horrific in every way. Anyway, that's Leviathan, and she's a villain, by the way. She's not like a good character. You fight her as Zero because she's wiping out a bunch of fellow Reploids, the robots, who basically think for themselves and are basically humans in every way, except they're born as full-grown adults. And it turns out when you do that, they tend to murder people randomly. So all in all, just a bad idea that she even exists. But she's here now, and she's here to watch the cute little humans fuck. So Leviathan, or just kidding. Why this character? Why Fairy Leviathan, the master of water? You always fight her underwater. Sometimes she turns into a plane.
Probably no transformation in SPNatI, but everything else in SPNatI. I'm still working on that, the Frost Javelin. But
yeah, I was gonna mention. It's funny that you made like two like kind of lance fighters, and or like halberds or whatever. Leviathan even mentions to her that like Nephenee is like a primitive version of Leviathan, but neither of them ever bring out their lances. Just kind of funny even for like a pose.
Yeah, well, the timing on these two may not be coincidental. You know, I had both, you know, slated, and their similarities made them, you know, kind of percolate together. So, Leviathan is like SPNatI said, an antagonist in the Zero series, at least for the first two games, and for the third game, she just kind of just lays around, and then she's not in the fourth one. Sorry.
Yeah,
but,
I've actually only played the first three games, but that's all I needed to, because she's not in the fourth one. She fucking died.
That's unconfirmed. The producers have said that the the remaining. I mean, they're the 4 Guardians, but spoiler alert, Shadow blows himself up in Mega Man 01, so he's not around, and it's just the 3 Guardians. But the 3 Guardians are, kind of scattered to the wind, and they may be dead, but these reports may also be false because they're just hiding, or they're off doing whatever.
It's hilarious because, like, even the fact that they might be dead, it's literally just because they helped you out of the final boss of 3, and he exploded, and apparently, even though you were right fucking next to him as well, that explosion just killed them. They're just gone. They just pieced out.
They did their part. Now they're out of here. Peace. But yeah, Fairy, she's the only female member of the Guardians. Despite me thinking for probably years that Harpudia was a girl. Harpudia is not a girl. Harpudia is a dude. But she's super cute, and she's feisty, and she doesn't hang out with humans that much because she's too busy killing Reploids. So I imagine that, any human she does meet is like, oh, there's that sadistic war machine, and doesn't want to hang out with her. So I thought this was a good opportunity for her to interact with people and make fun of them for, being made of flesh.
Right. She has a very condescending attitude towards humans, since she's basically just like babysat them her entire life.
She doesn't understand how humans can get by without her. They super need her help and everyone else's help, because they keep almost going extinct for some reason.
I can't imagine why. Couldn't be all the murder robots.
Couldn't possibly be all the murder robots we built, could it?
Who are smart enough to make more of themselves. So it's just mostly them because they can live out in the wild.
Amazing stuff, humans. But yeah, very.
Anything else you want to mention about like the motivation behind the project?
I mean, I just, like I said, I have wild and eclectic taste, and I really like Mega Man and all things Mega Man. So I already made a roll. So this is my second time doing a technical franchise. This is my first time doing a technical franchise, mates. But I really super wanted to get Nephenee in, and because I was thinking about one blue armored lance wielder, I was also thinking about the other one on my mind. So I was like, I'll just do them both at the same time, so I can be accused of having a type for once in my life. And that's basically it. But like I said, I really like Mega Man. I really like the Zero series. So Leviathan is a character that I think is real cool.
She is ice elemental.
And yet, when people suggest Tron Bonn, you kidnap their families and threaten them never to talk to you again. Curious.
I mean, you can't prove that ever happened.
Nord, what'd you think of Leviathan?
I've played with her 2 or 3 times now, and this was the only time I actually noticed that she has like doll joints, specifically connecting her limbs to her main body. I don't know if you want to do this, but I would have suggested making those a darker color, or making the lines slightly thicker so they're easier to see, because it's a really cool detail that like demonstrates that she's not human. But it's very hard to notice on a first playthrough. Now granted, the fact that she talks about how worthless humans are every other line, and pokes fun at them for being so foolish, it does give away that she herself is not human. Overall, I quite like her. From a technical side, I really like how you've just had her abuse the Mega Man teleport effect for she uses it for everything pretty much. Even at the end of the game, she alright, show's over, bye, and just leaves. I think that's great.
Yeah, I saw my opening on that to abuse that, and I took it.
I think you did great adapting her design into I wouldn't really say there's a SPNatI art style, but she is more consistent with the rest of the roster, while still keeping her she's faithful to her original design still.
How much of this was based on like art books and like supplemental material for you to like
or fan art?
Can like Leviathan can Reploids even like take off parts of their bodies, or is that just it?
Unclear, but
Yeah.
For our purposes, yes, definitely, absolutely, peer-reviewed and true.
There's a lot of unclear stuff. I mean, you think like is this white texturing? Skin tight, is that even her skin? Apparently not, but
it's one of those things the canon never disproves.
Well, it's just jump and shoot, man. They don't really go into the specifics of Reploids.
I mean,
they have fallen in love with humans. They have fucked, apparently.
If X-Dive is any indicator,
maybe she just blows them.
She does. She's able to change clothes, and her skin is not that white stuff. So, I do have some evidence for these choices I've made.
Nor did you have any other comments on Leviathan?
I think I'll struggle to articulate any greater feedback because I know nothing about Mega Man lore, and it has been a wild experience learning everything through 2 SPNatI characters.
Well, aren't you glad that you have me? We got each other's backs. You know about Genshin Impact and Fire Emblem and everything else, and I know about Mega Man. And the fact that I know about Mega Man means that you've activated my trap card, because I do have a number of criticisms here. I do want to say, like, she is quite good overall, and an enjoyable character to play with. I just see a lot of room for improvement and expansion. So let's start with dialogue. Kind of related to the arts, there are a lot of questions about like Reploids, their humanity and their sexuality that Jump and Shoot Man never really gets into. So it is something you kind of have to make up yourself. And I've talked about how this is my white whale, having a Reploid girl, a robot girl, and grapple with sexuality in that way and observing humans. Unfortunately, she's not very curious about humans. I mean, she is towards the end, but she's mostly just condescending towards them. She kind of just views them as children, which does make her motivations here a little bit questionable. I mean, I guess it's just more just like wanting to see her wards or her creators. But yeah, I think that in particular is something you could lean on a little bit more. She kind of has shades of it, but especially towards the end, like she gets into it, but it's never really clear like how much she thinks about her own sexuality in relation to these people, or a lot of her opinions on it, or what she's into, or how being a Reploid kind of informs that. She's very duty focused. She doesn't get a lot of off time. She has to go murder her own kind. More on attraction. Maybe try treating men and women a little bit differently. It is. I mean, generally you want to do that. She's maybe a character where that makes a little bit less sense, because male and female Reploids are pretty equal. She kind of just views all humans as the same. But like her general personality feels pretty spot on. About she's very full of herself. I think one of the problems is that some of the character dynamics that are present in the games are kind of missing, because it's just her by herself. She's not there with the other Guardians. Who she kind of sees as equals. She's not there with Zero, who she tries to style on it. He just keeps beating her down, and she starts to get off a little bit on it. The rivalry that she has, that all of them have with Zero, that develops into a respect. And I think you need to find ways to capture that. And there's no humans in the games, is the other thing. There are humans in Neo Arcadia, and they talk about humans being there and mostly getting killed from like being nuked. You see like one human and it's like in 0-4, so Leviathan doesn't even interact with her. But that's it. That's all you get for humans. So it's unclear.
Ciel's a human.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Ciel's a human. She's in all the games.
So yeah, she mentioned a lot, like she's more comfortable in the water, and like I wouldn't do this on dry land and that sort of thing. That general like wetness and like swimming sex. That's an appeal you could really lean into a lot more. That's a lot of good stuff. I wonder if the boob envy she has any canon basis. I noticed you made her totally flat, and she seemed a little annoyed by that fact. I guess I would be too, especially if like I could have been built with actual boobs, and they just decided no. Does that have any basis? Was that like in supplemental material?
This has no basis except for loose basis where, she has this superiority complex about, she's supposed to protect humanity. She's, their salvation. Reploids are built to do what they can't do, but there's still this like, one facet where it's like she falls deficient. So there's no basis in the canon. It's just something extra sprinkled in there, a little flavoring for me.
Mm-hmm. And that's funny because, it kind of runs counter to her attitude about like Reploid superiority and perfection. So it's something fun to kind of play off of. And she doesn't look particularly busty, especially if that jacket is kind of loose that she has on. But yeah, just to like try to mention the others a little bit more, her setting, just try to explore more about like what makes her, and like what being a Reploid is like, instead of like just being like, oh haha, I'm better than everybody else. Art wise, I'm a little torn. I mentioned the lance already. I think like I praised your custom posing. I don't know how much of your custom or how much of your faces are actual like custom assets in the face. But you do a very good job in general, and she shares that as well. She has Sofia's big pupilless irises that, again, you know how to work very well. It felt natural. I liked her cocky grin that she has. A lot of her flirty poses were very good. I think the only thing I'm not really sold on is the model itself. And like the model's good, like the individual parts are good. It looks good in a vacuum. I just think like the proportions, I don't know, it doesn't feel quite like the source material for me. Like, I guess it's kind of hard to compare with, like, she doesn't seem particularly tall in the source. Like, I think she's shorter than the other Guardians. And in general, she seems like skinnier. She seems more slender in the Zero art style. And here she's like she's like tall. She's like very hippie. She's got like very, very wide hips. And long legs. I mean, she does have long legs, but like I think that the proportions, if you're willing to change the entire thing this late in the game, I would prefer a slightly more slender on model look. That being said, if you don't feel like doing that, it's not like she looks bad. It's just my personal preference, and this is a bit unfair to you because like this model is good, and then like a little bit ago, Lockett, for maker of Nagatoro and Nonon, posted a model of CL from Mega Man Zero. Maybe I can go grab that later and put it in chat. She was like, exactly on model. It's just like, that's not fair. Like, I don't think everyone from a series has to look exactly the same. Yeah, that was just my personal preference. Thank you for the grin. If I was making her, that's what I would go with. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to change everything.
I wonder how much it would really entail me changing. I mean, I'd have to redo all the poses, but I'm just wondering how complicated even a change it would be.
Yeah,
it'd be worth looking into.
Shorter and more slender is just the approach I would have taken, because that's kind of what she looks like to me.
Yeah, because she's taller than Nephenee, and looking at her official art, she does, like, I don't know how much of that is just the proportions of the series, but she does seem quite, like, just at a glance she would seem a bit shorter than you've made her.
Yeah, she's kind of a little gremlin who, like, it's a little fairy who just floats around in the water. I mean, she's shorter than Zero, right? Zero's not like a giant. I think he's about the same height as CL. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that would kind of add to the fun superiority when she's just like this tiny little girl. It's like, I'll fuck you up. Overall, yeah, two very strong showings from JustKidding here. And is there anything else you'd like to say about either of them?
I mean, more to come on both of them. Obviously, they're on testing, and in my eyes, anything on testing is, still early phase, still subject to change. And this is, I crave the input and the criticism and the direction, and I have a list of things that they both need, and so on and so forth. So continued feedback and support and weird ideas people have. My door is open, my ears are open. So yeah, thanks for all the support so far on all 4 of these characters. Definitely, hearing feedback from you gets me hyped to do more good work. So yeah, appreciate you having me around to shill my smuts more.
Here's the CL model. And even she was probably made a little bit taller, which I guess makes sense because CL's like 14, 15, something like that in the games. So she's if CL does make it into the game, Leviathan should be a little respectful. I know they're enemies, but she made copy X, and Leviathan came from X. They share a lineage. They're family, practically.
Yells her grandma.
Well, I think they were made from X. They weren't made from copy X, but even still.
I'm pretty sure copy X made the Guardians.
Is that what happened?
From himself. Yeah.
I'll have to look that up later.
CL definitely made copy X herself. But then he went off the rails, and that's what prompted her to join the Resistance.
What? The murder robot went off the rails? I can't believe it.
Yeah, again.
Well, I think that'll about do it. This is a pretty beefy episode, but a lot of good discussion, a lot of good content. Thanks for coming on. Just kidding to talk about your projects. Thanks for putting them in the game. It's great to have all this high quality work come out of one guy. Not me. I'm still playing with my same old toys in the sandbox. Like Adam Sandler, I didn't progress.
I mean, Adam Sandler went on to make Uncut Gems. There's still hope for you.
Well, just kidding. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on, Nord, as well. I've been spnanon, and just kidding. You did the intro. Would you like to do the outro?
Hey, everybody. Out there. Go fuck yourselves.